It's Nørgaard. So today I'm doing a full coverage foundation routine using only drugstore / affordable makeup products and tools. So I'll show you my entire face makeup from the foundation to the contour, the highlight, everything. So if you like this look, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to watch in high definition. And that is it. So without further ado, here comes the tutorial. So the first step to flawless skin is definitely a primer. I'm going to use this Catrice Prime and Fine Smoothing Refiner because it really smooths out the face and it fills in my pores and it kind of evens out the texture of my skin. So I take this and I warm it up between my fingers and then I go ahead and apply it. I really love this primer, it works so well. So the next step is optional, but I really like to do it. So I'm going to use an under eye primer from the drugstore. I really love the e.l.f. Hydrating under eye primer. This will just really hydrate the under eye area and get it ready for concealer. For me, it really helps my concealer not to crease, because my under eye is really dry, so my concealer creases easily. So something like this really helps. So I do want to correct my dark circles. So I'm going to use my Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Concealer in Neutralizer. So this is a yellow color. So I just use it underneath my eyes where I have some blue tones. And I'm not going to use it anywhere else because I am going to use a full coverage foundation. But I just go ahead and apply a little bit of this. And you only need a small amount of this. So I'm using this little sponge by e.l.f. to blend it out. And this just brightens your under eye. So now that all that prep work is done, we can move into the foundation. So the most full coverage liquid foundation I have ever tried is from the drugstore. And it is this Rimmel Stay Matte Liquid Mousse Foundation. So my shade in this foundation is Ivory and I actually just bought it, but I haven't opened it yet. So I just am going to use these two and mix them together instead. So this is light ivory and this is classic beige. So I mix these two together to get my perfect color. And when I have my right color, I go ahead and apply it with my finger. I like to just dot it all over my face to make sure I distribute it evenly. And again, I just use my e.l.f. sponge and I just pat it in. If you pat, you're going to get the most coverage. And this foundation is super full coverage and it's very matte also. It is one of my most favorite foundations of all time. But if you try out this foundation, you have to be aware that this is also a bit heavy on the skin. It feels heavy, you can feel it on your face. So this will definitely not be everyone's cup of tea, but personally I love it. And if you're looking for something with really full coverage from the drugstore, try this out. So this is my one layer of foundation. So this is pretty full coverage in itself. But if you have some areas that you would like to cover up a little bit more, you can always go in with a little bit more foundation. So I just dab a little bit more right on top. And I like to add a little bit more on my acne scars, on my cheeks. And I actually also got a little bit of new acne while I was in London. My skin cannot handle traveling. And again, I just dab it out to maintain the coverage. Also, you have to work a little bit quickly with this foundation because it does set to like a powder finish. So my camera cut me off, so don't mind that I look absolutely crazy. We are going to now do concealer. And I'm going to use the Hard Candy Glamoflauge Heavy Duty Concealer in Ultra Light around my eyes. I actually just squeeze a little bit out underneath my eye and just kind of spread it a little bit. And I go back in with my sponge and blend it out. This concealer is very full coverage, so you don't need a lot. And I think when you're using a full coverage foundation, it's also pretty important to use a full coverage concealer, or else it can look kind of weird. So you could also choose to highlight you know, other places of your face. Personally, I prefer just to highlight my eyes. And now to set my concealer, I like to use a transparent loose powder. I really like the Nørgaard Color Smooth Skin Loose Powder in Translucent. This works really well. This is a great drugstore loose powder. And the trick to making sure your concealer does not crease is that you blend out the creases and then go in straight after with your powder. So I'm just going to blend out the creases with my sponge, both on the eyelid and also underneath, and then just go straight ahead and set it with some powder. So you could just leave the rest of your face alone and not set it with any powder. But because I do have oily skin, I like to ensure that my foundation stays matte for as long as possible. So I'm going to use a little bit of the Stay Matte powder by Rimmel in the color Transparent. And I'm just using a big powder brush from e.l.f. And you don't need a lot of powder at all. It's just to mattify a little bit more if you're super oily like I am. So now that my face is looking very flat, I want to add some shape back to my face with some bronzer. And when you use a full coverage foundation, it's really important to bronze and blush and such things, because your face looks extra one-dimensional when you have used such a heavy foundation. So I'm going to use Nørgaard Color Smooth Skin Bronzing Powder in Sunny. So it's a nice warm kind of light bronzer. And I'm going to use a e.l.f. Stipple Brush, and I'm going to use this because the bristles are not super dense, which is what you want for your bronzer, because you don't want to have it too heavy. So I'm using very light circular motions to apply my bronzer, and this just adds a little bit of color back to your face as well as some dimension. And I always think it looks flattering to have a little bit of bronzer up around the hairline, so I always do that. And I just continue with the big circular motions, and then finally I do my jaw. And the jaw can really make or break your look. If you don't apply any bronzer down here, your face can look kind of unfinished when you do have such full coverage products on your skin. But then again, if you apply too much, it looks really unnatural. So once I have some bronzer on my face, I'm going to contour, which you could skip the contour if you don't feel like it, but you can definitely go for it with this kind of full coverage foundation. So for my contour, I'm going to use the Nørgaard Color Wheel Mosaic Face Powder in the color All Over Bronze Glow. So this is another matte bronzer. This one is just a bit deeper than the bronzer I used before. And I'm going to use this brush from BornPrettyStore to apply it. So I start from kind of the top of the ear and work down towards my lips. So that's where I'm going to place the brush. Like this. I like to stipple it on a little bit. So with this brush, I just make sure to place the contour where I want it. And I do the same over here on this cheek. I'm also going to do a little tiny bit along the jaw, just to really define it. But you have to be careful with this. And I kind of just use whatever is left up here around my forehead, on the sides of my forehead. And I don't want to use this big old brush for my nose contour, it's just too big. So instead I'm going to use my e.l.f. fan brush. This fits much nicer right here on the side of my nose. So this is really simple, you just run it down each side, just kind of below the eyebrow. And now you do not just want to leave this unblended, okay? You want to blend it out. So I'm going back in with my bronzer brush. You can also use your powder brush. And just blend that out. And just blend down the jaw and down the neck a little bit as well. And I also just blend my forehead. So once I have my contour done, I'm going to brush out my brows because I have gotten quite a lot of foundation and powder in my eyebrows. So next I'm going to apply this bomb ass highlight. This is the e.l.f. Baked Blush in Pinktastic, and if you have not tried this, you need to try it. It's really amazing. I love to use this BornPrettyStore foundation brush. This really packs on the highlight and makes it nice and intense. If you want a lighter application of highlight, you can use a big powder brush, a big fan brush, like this one from Beige Cosmetics. So I smile and I follow my cheekbone with my highlight, like this. And I like a lot of highlights, so I really pack it on. And I do the same over here. I just kind of swipe it across my cheekbones. And I also do a little bit on the tip of my nose and above the lips. So now I want to add a little bit of color to my face. So I'm going to use this NYX Baked Blush in Statement Red. And I'm just going to add that right here on the apple of my cheek and blend backwards. Kind of in between the highlight and the contour. And you don't need a lot of this blush at all. You can easily, or at least I can, easily go overboard with the blush. So since we didn't use a lot of powders, this makeup can look a bit powdery. So to kind of combat that, I'm going to use my NYX Dewy Finish setting spray. So I really love this setting spray because it doesn't leave me oily, but it just really takes away the powdery look. And the way I like to do my setting sprays is that I spray 3 times on the middle and each side of my face, so 9 sprays in total. And I find that works the best, and that way I get my entire face. So I do it like this. And then I have my eyes closed for a minute and let it dry. So my final step for this foundation routine is to brush out your hairs. So I like to brush out my hair, so I make sure I have no kind of makeup sitting right along the hairline and looking unnatural. So just brush it out. And again I go back to my eyebrows and brush through them again, just to make sure they have as little product in them as possible. Okay, so I just went ahead and did a little bit of tinted brow gel, a little bit of mascara, and a little bit of tinted lip balm. Obviously you can do whatever you want. You can do a smoky eye, a dramatic lip, whatever you like. I just wanted to add a little bit of some finishing touches without taking away from the skin being the focal point. So yeah, this is the finished Drugstore full coverage foundation routine. So if you like this look, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, I'll see you guys again in my next video. So take care and bye bye.